Live from Studio 1A in Centennial High School, this is a Bulldog TV News Special Report. America Decides 2024. Here's Bella Vigil and Gianna Haynes.
Good morning, Bulldogs. I'm Bella Vigil.
And I'm Gianna Haynes.
And welcome to this very special edition of the Bulldog TV Morning News. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today we lead off with some breaking news. Bulldog TV can now project that Donald J. Trump will be the 47th President of the United States, following shocking victories yesterday evening. For the first time in 131 years, and just for the second time in American history, an individual has been elected to the office of president in non-sequential terms, the last of which being Grover Cleveland in the late 1800s. Trump's victory came over after a roller coaster of an election night that returned more surprises than not for the former and current president-elect. To take a deeper dive into how this race played out, we send it down to Bulldog TV News correspondent Shanley Slaughter.
All right, so the election last night was pretty crazy, big doozy. Trump pulled through with 276 and Harris ended up with 223. That was really decided by the battlefield happening in Pennsylvania last night, which was a very hectic, crazy election, but Trump ended up winning Pennsylvania. We have the rest of our swing states over here and up in Michigan, all predicted to be red. Maine is up here, is predicted to be blue, and this is kind of how the final count is predicted to look as of right now, with Trump at 311 and Harris at 227. Congress has the Senate as Republican and the House leaning Republican right now. And then, yeah, that's the predicted election map. I'm gonna send it back to the studio.
With that, we would like to send our well wishes as Bulldogs to the President-elect and wish him well as he returns to the White House this January, with Inauguration Day scheduled for January 20th.
Now on to our local elections here in Pueblo and Colorado. First, starting with your local officials.
First, in the race for State Board of Education for the 3rd Congressional District, Republican Sherry Wright has won her race by roughly 40,000 votes, commanding 56% of the turnout.
Next, for District Attorney of the 10th Judicial District of Colorado, Republican candidate Kayla Buvis has also won her election by a margin of roughly 7,000 votes over Democratic candidate Kyle Aber, pulling 55% of the vote in that race.
Next, for the Pueblo County Commissioner of District 1, Democrat Miles Lucero has won his race by a margin of roughly 3,000 votes over Republican candidate Steven Rodriguez, so definitely a close race there, Bulldogs. Independent candidate and former Democrat Epi Grego was roughly 15,000 votes back from Rodriguez.
Next, the other Pueblo County Commissioner seat that was up for grabs last night came out of District 2. In what was the closest local race this year, Republican candidate Paula McFeeters defeated Democrat Danae Esgar by a tight margin of roughly 1,400 votes.
Next, on to the U.S. House of Representatives race for the 3rd Congressional District of Colorado. Republican Jeff Hurd defeated Democrat Adam French by a margin of roughly 10,000 votes. Carrying 54% of the district, Hurd will represent Colorado on the 119th Congress of the United States as a member of the House of Representatives in Washington.
Finally, while Vice President Harris did carry Colorado in the Electoral College, she did lose Pueblo County by roughly 2,200 votes. In 2020, President Biden also lost Pueblo County to Trump, which in recent years has signaled a slight right lean for Pueblo, which has historically been a Democratic stronghold due to our large population of blue-collar union workers.
Now on to some key ballot measures. Amendment G, which is expanded property tax exemptions for disabled veterans. Amendment JJ, which removed caps on state revenue for sports betting. And Amendment KK, which imposed taxes on sales of firearms and ammunition, all passed with pretty wide margins on each.
One of the more talked about pieces of legislation this election cycle was Proposition 131, and would change the way primary voting is structured in Colorado, was shot down by voters by a margin of about 250,000 votes.
Proposition 1, which would allow judges to revoke a person's right to bail when charged with first-degree murder, was passed by a wide margin of over 700,000 votes.
Other public safety measures, such as Proposition 128, which increased the required amount of a sentence of an individual who committed a violent crime, would need to serve before being eligible for parole to 85%, along with Proposition 130, which creates a police training and support fund, were also passed by wide margins last night as well.
Lastly, Amendment 79, which creates the constitutional right to abortion in the state of Colorado, was also passed by a margin of roughly 450,000 votes.
For more ballot results and more specific numbers, Bulldog TV News recommends visiting the KKTV 11 News Results page, which can be accessed through a simple Google search or by scanning the QR code on your screens now.
Lastly, this morning, Bulldog TV would like to share the results of our own 2024 presidential election poll that many of you filled out Monday and Tuesday. So if you were one of those people who did fill that out, thank you so much for your participation in that.
To take a dive into the results from that poll, let's send it one more time down to Bulldog TV News correspondent Shawnlee Slaughter.
And welcome back. So I did the political maps. Now we're going to do our political polls. So here we have our school's votes for the candidates. 53% votes for Kamala and 35 for Donald, and then some independent voters. Don't know why we have RFK on here. He dropped out. Pretty interesting, I'd say. 51% of our polls were female, 42% male. Lines up fairly well with the election, I'd say. On to our next slide here. So our most important issues, from most to least important to our school, is healthcare, education, crime and public safety, economy and jobs, voting rights and election integrity, national security and foreign policy, climate change and environment, and last, immigration. So, first we have healthcare, right? Private healthcare with limited government intervention. That's a pretty conservative view. Pretty interesting there. Education, we have federal funding for public education, which is a liberal view. Not bad, not bad. Crime and public safety, we have increased funding for law enforcement and implement stricter penalties for crime. That's a pretty conservative view, which is, we have a lot of liberal voters, you know. Economy, very conservative view, with focusing on reducing the national debt and lowering taxes. Voting rights, we have liberal with support policies that expand access to voting within mail voting and early voting. And then anything else you want to find, we have the rest of our polls on the Google Classroom, so ask your teachers, they could probably pull it up for you. That's all I have. I'm going to send it back up to the studio.
Thanks, Shawnlee, and thank you once again to everyone who participated in that poll. With that, we wrap up yet another presidential election here in the United States and at Bulldog TV. That's all we have for you this morning, Bulldogs, on this very special 2024 election edition of the Bulldog TV Morning News.
We certainly hope you enjoy the rest of your days, and as always, from all of us here at Bulldog TV, stay classy, Bulldogs.